be recorded, mostly for meeting minute purposes, but also just so that we can share it online so others can view it later. We also, just going to switch over to chat here. I'm dropping in some information on the captioning and American Sign Language interpretation. Closed captioning does work for the desktop version of Microsoft Teams. To do that, you'd want to click on the three dots toward the top of the window and then click Turn on Live Captions. But unfortunately, if you're using the web version, that functionality isn't always there. So if you do follow along with ASL, please make sure to pin Barb or Jill, and you can find them by picking on the participant list and then again clicking the three dots and selecting pin. I also dropped in the agenda just so that if you want to follow along, and it should have been sent out with the meeting notice, but just so you have it as a kind of a quick check. Throughout the meeting, I'll be checking the chat and trying to bring questions up to the group as needed, and I would just ask that everyone please stay unmuted unless you're either talking on an agenda item or you've raised your hand and then we've had a chance to select or call on you. So with that, I will hand it. I'll start with roll call here. Because I think we're expecting a potentially larger group here, I think we're just going to do a roll call by calling out the members, asking them to let me know that they're present, and then if you are participating and get called on during the meeting, please just announce yourselves, say your name, and whether you're a resident or representing an organization. All right, with that, I will start with roll call, starting at the top. Carissa Givens.
Here. Present.
Kevin Kushel.
Present.
Thank you. Claude Kroshek. Don't see Claude yet. Nicholas Lajoie.
I am on. I don't know if
I'm sorry.
Yeah, Claude's here.
Sorry. Now I'm on. Okay. This
Thank
is
you,
Claude.
All right. Nicholas Lajoie.
I'm here unless a lightning strike takes me out or something. We just got a storm coming through, so.
Yep, I feel the same. Hopefully this works. Just going here. Daniel Rufus. Looks like unexcused absence. Andy Tillman. Let's see Andy yet. And Angie Tornes.
I am here.
All right, that's all I have at the beginning here. Hand it over to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, James. Today we are having a 60-minute meeting, so we're going to kind of speed things along here, but some things will be changing in the future in terms of the duration of our meetings. First of all, I do want to welcome our newest members of the Bike Pedestrian Task Force, Cynthia Tejes, Mitch Henke, and I'm sorry, I didn't know if Montavious is present yet. Did he say he was present? Okay, well, we'll welcome Montavious, and hopefully he'll be on in a moment. But I actually want to take a moment to honor and thank Angie Tornes here. Angie has actually been with us for, I think, close to 20 years, maybe 17 years. Angie, I think that you're officially what we call the OG of the Bike and Pedestrian Task Force. You were appointed by Mayor Norquist, I believe, and you have actually accomplished a lot with this group, both with this group and of course professionally. So Angie actually serves on behalf of the National Park Service in the river and trails preservation and hydropower scene. I'm sure she could tell you more about that, but that's excellent. And the reason why I mentioned that is because it really goes hand in hand with the work that she does personally and has done that on behalf of this group. As soon as I start talking, this cat wants to talk too. So Angie's been a part of a lot of bike and pedestrian studies that have increased bikeability and walkability in the city of Milwaukee. A couple of things that have been, I think, really exceptional that she's done with the Bike and Pedestrian Task Force is advise and usher forth the Marsupial Bridge project, as well as worked with the Wisconsin Bike Federation, the DPW, to advise and pass our master bike plan, which is excellent. And there's a lot of other things that she's been a part of. But I would say personally, Angie, one of the things that I appreciate about you the most is just your intelligence and expertise in like the comings and goings of government. It seems boring, but when you have to navigate as a resident or a community organization on behalf of this group, sometimes you don't know all the ins and outs of the way things go. And I think it's really important to have people like Angie a part of these groups in order to shore up the agency of such a body. So Angie, I just want to thank you for all the work that you've done over the years. And I just want to let you know that I will continue to bug you, and you're always welcome here, first Wednesdays of every month. Your dedication to making urban centers more ecologically responsible and connect to our county and our region and our state are very much appreciated. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Caressa. That's very, very nice of you for that summary, because I guess there's advantages to being a bureaucrat is what you're saying, right? And if I was appointed under Norquist, boy, that is a long time. And I don't have that document because maybe it's buried somewhere. I don't know if I ever got one, to tell you the truth. But I have been on since Jeff Polinsky was a part-time bike ped coordinator. So that gives you some idea. And it has been a pleasure to see so many people interested in the Bike Ped Task Force and the goings on of what our local government can do. And the staff have been wonderful, and all the people that are part of the committee. It takes two to tango, and it's all in the public good and service. And there's so much potential, and I am enthusiastic about the direction of this group and the new leadership and the continuation of other good seasoned people that are still on the task force. And I will look forward to your progress. Believe me, my ear will be to the ground. So thank you, everybody. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. And I'll stay on for the rest of the meeting so I can give my 2 cents worth and tell you what to do. Thanks.
Excellent. You know, I'll say one last thing to you. I was going to get you a bouquet of flowers, but when I heard you gave away my Girl Scout cookies, I had a second thought about that.
I knew there would be retribution. Oh well.
Well,
I'll give you a rain check sometime.
You know where to find me. I might have a rose for you someday. Okay, well, I didn't mean to take up too much time on that, but I'm very tangential, as many of you know. So I got into my flow, and I just wanted to praise the people that make things what they are. Okay, so Kevin, I believe we're going to move into an activity that is, I think, the second activity that thunder and lightning, we've been working on to try to examine our mission and vision with this group. And I believe we started off doing that the last time we were all together. But Kevin, I think that you have an additional activity for us to come to a closer resolution on what that might be. So I'm going to hand it over to you.
I do. Thank you. Before we do that, though, did we want to approve the meeting minutes? Can we approve the meeting minutes?
Yes, we can. I'm so sorry. I skipped that. So I'll approve the meeting minutes, and I'm looking for a second.
This is Claude. I'll second.
Thank you. The meeting minutes from the last meeting have been approved. Thanks, Kevin, for reminding me of that.
Yeah, no problem.
Now it's all you.
And now it's all me. And now it's scary. Okay, so what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna start sharing my screen. And please let me know if there are any issues with this. So if you remember from last week, we used the Jamboard to kind of brainstorm different ideas and come up with a sort of story that would reflect what the Bike Ped Task Force's mission is. And through the Jamboards, I was able to distill these 3 sentences. And from that, I took sort of the nouns and put them into the causes section. I put the verbs and put them into the action section. And then the impact would be some of the things that we would expect the Bike Ped Task Force to do. So then
Hey,
I grouped
Kevin,
these.
sorry, Kevin, this is Claude. Is there any way to enlarge that?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Training on my screen.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
Up in your task window by that little printer insignia, there's like 100% there. I think that's where you.
Yeah. So if we want to take a minute, I guess actually this would be a good idea to read through these things and see if we can agree with it. And then after that, I'll take us to the grouping ideas section where we'll look at the causes, actions, and impacts section a little bit closer and see what is common between the different groups that have created these things. And from there, we'll move on into the statements. So I'll give you all just another minute, unless there are issues, unless people have, unless people would like more time to read through the sentences as well. And Brian, we can definitely include the pedestrian plan inside these statements. This visions and mission statement project, I guess, it isn't set in stone yet. So anything we would like to add, anything we would like to take out, we can definitely do that. That's exactly what we're here for. So Brian, thank you for mentioning the pedestrian plan, and I will include that in there. Okay, does anybody need any more time? If you do need more time, please, I guess, raise your hand in the Teams application. Okay, so I don't see it. Oh, sorry.
Rebecca needs just another moment.
Yes. Okay, cool. So I'll switch on to the next tab. So just looking at it in a different way, I think I'm going to have to lower this just a little bit so that we can all see it. So I separated every one of the causes, actions, and impact into separate columns, and that way we can kind of look at them together. So the last one is the Common Council, and then BPTF stands for Bike Ped Task Force, in case anybody wasn't aware. So that's what the Bike Ped Task Force, or that's what the acronym stands for. But otherwise, the causes are the agent of the Bike Ped Task Force, complete streets, neighborhoods, communities, resident groups, transportation concerns, public, community, bike plan, common council, and because I think it would go here, we'll do the pedestrian plan as well. Does anybody have any other suggestions that we would like for the causes? And if you do, please unmute and we can hear. We don't need to raise our hands for this part. Okay, so moving on then, our actions are to advocate, to be a resource, to provide guidance, to provide expertise, to provide resources, to engage, to help in decision making, to update, to support, to advise, and anything else we would like to add right now. Accessibility, I see.
How about to be listened to?
Would it be okay if I put to be heard?
To be heard, there you go. You have a command of the English language.
Sometimes. Thanks, Claude. Any other suggestions? Okay, so I will move on then. Our impact, from what I was able to distill, was to enhance safe walking or biking, to create safe, equitable, and affordable transportation, to have better and safer biking and walking, and to advise the Common Council. Is there anything else we'd like to add on there? Yeah, Caressa.
To redefine our streets as people places.
Great, thanks. Anything else?
I would maybe say, in addition to that, just to reprioritize safety for pedestrians and bicyclists. But that's kind of in the same vein of what Chris said. Streets is prioritized for people first and not cars first.
I like that a lot. Would it be okay if I changed to reprioritize the safety of people first instead of pedestrians and bicyclists? Or would you prefer to keep that in?
No, that's fine. Yeah, that's actually probably more inclusive of everybody, okay. Because safer pedestrians and bicyclists means safer drivers too.
That's true. That's true.
Becky had her hand raised.
Oh, Becky, please.
Provide an equitable and inclusive pedestrian experience.
Okay, thank you. Is there anything else we would like to add? Angie.
I put it in the chat there.
Oh, did not see that.
It is kind of duplicative, possibly.
I'm taking all ideas right now, even if they are, like the purpose of this is we are going to see, and obviously some of these have duplicates. We are going to see some duplicates, and that's actually the point. So thank you.
And I
Yes.
just want to quickly say, for those of you who are currently not members of this body, you are welcome to raise your hand and participate as well. It's not just for members.
Absolutely, yeah. Sorry I did not mention that at the beginning. The Bike Ped Task Force, we'd like to include everyone in the public and everyone in the city of Milwaukee. So if you have an opinion on this, we'd love to hear it as well. Nick.
Sorry, microphone was muted. You could almost put what Claude said for the second column into the third column in terms of being a voice or being heard, the community, neighborhoods within the city, being sort of acting as a liaison for those voices to the city. I think the task force has always been, I think, had that function as a possibility.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Angie, did you want to add something else?
No, but I see someone else put Paul Robert Zettel put something in the chat.
Oh. Okay. I see that.
I will take a look at the link. If you have if you do have something to contribute to this activity, if you do feel comfortable with speaking, just make sure that you raise your hand and contribute, because it's kind of a little bit challenging to go back and forth through the comments.
Yeah, Paul actually put some language in addition to the link.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I see Cynthia has her hand raised.
Yes, and I'm just going back a little bit on the action. I'm thinking of, I don't know how far would be to evaluate previous, previous, I don't know, it could be that previous projects or previous ideas that were in place, and how can those, move forward, or I don't know how far could that be a possibility of evaluate, because I don't want to, just put evaluation as a action, because I think that's I believe that's a big thing. But up to what point can I add, can we think of what has worked and what could be worked out better?
Can you rephrase that?
Yeah, some that's why I was having a hard time constructing that, but I think up to what extent could the task force evaluate something or a scenario that can move forward or can get us closer to what the mission can be. I'm not saying that the mission is set yet in stone, but utilizing an evaluation to see where we are at and how we can move ahead.
Oh, so like self-evaluation.
Yeah, I think that's a better way.
Okay. Did I get that right? I want to make sure that we get everything right. Like, is that the intent of what you were saying?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So Brian, we'll move up to the top. So Brian wanted to see the top again, just sort of refresh how these segments. And then Paul said, which I think would be our action, if I'm not mistaken, is to partner with schools, agencies, business, and local communities.
Okay, not as an impact. That makes
maybe. I mean, it depends on what his. I'm assuming, but I don't want to make that assumption, Paul. I don't know if you had a category that you wanted to put that in, but.
Yeah, Paul, if you would like to clarify that, you can put that in the chat as well, or if you would like to speak and share, that's also acceptable.
Yeah, maybe it is the third category.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
I obviously leave that up to you. You have better knowledge of what you want to see in what categories, but you're right. It does fit into our actions. It is an ongoing action to have partnerships and to keep things sustainable and keeping people involved.
Okay. Thank you so much for clarifying that.
You're welcome.
Okay, so do we have any last minute thoughts on this? I didn't realize the time, and we'll be moving on to our next item in just a minute. So the more fun part will come next month.
I think this is a really healthy list, so it's good.
No, I do. I agree, and I think there were a lot of the going through the Jamboards from the last session was really interesting to look at, and I think we have a pretty good start on where we'd like to see the Bike Ped Task Force go. So, given that we don't have any more input on this, I'll come up with a much more entertaining exercise for the next Bike Ped Task Force meeting. But Caressa did make me feel a lot better last time when we were talking, because apparently these things do take some time. So thank you all for bearing with me and having the patience. And with that, we'll move on to the next item, I suppose.
Great. Thanks for putting that together, Kevin. And yes, like you mentioned, some of these things in terms of coming to a solid agreement on a mission and vision take a little bit of time. But the good thing is that the Bicycle and Pedestrian Task Force does have a current mission and vision. So if anyone's desperate for a version of it, they can look it up. But you know, we're changing and evolving. So next, we're going to move into some more detail about what this group could take on this year and into the future. So beyond the mission and vision, what are the brass tacks? What are we trying to do? So what I did is I created a feedback sort of vision board or post-it note board for all of our members to participate in terms of the work that they would like to achieve. However, I would definitely like to hear from anyone else in the room who is not a member of the group as to some of the things that they thought were a priority for the group to work on. So I did that by creating a series of Jamboards. Some of you have heard the term Jamboard used maybe a few times in this meeting or maybe outside of it, but it's essentially a virtual tool that allows people to participate all at once and updates on the internet cloud, so to speak, which is great because people can see each other express themselves live. So I'm going to actually share the Jamboard results. I won't go through each individual's Jamboard, but I will share the results of what came to be. And I should mention that I created this exercise based off of a previous feedback form that I sent out to the public. So not just to the member body, but the public. So this is what's come out of it. We're distilling it down, so to speak. Okay, so I am going to get one of my browsers up. Some of you have many tabs open on your browser, but I have many browsers with many tabs. Taking it to the next level. Okay. Can you see my screen? Anyone can make a verbal yay or nay.
Yep.
Okay, great. So here it is. So before we get to this, I just want to remind folks that when I put out an initial feedback form, I asked people what types of, I guess, broad actions or broad items they would want this particular body to focus on. Those things culminated in safe streets policy, safe streets plans, and then safe streets projects. And I believe there were some other categories. And if you would like to check out that feedback form, it's located in a link within our agenda, this agenda, current agenda. I think it's actually called like feedback form, something like that. So the 12 people did participate, including a couple of members of the public. I'm going to keep that feedback form open. Maybe I will release it quarterly or something like that, just to kind of recalibrate every once in a while. But the three things that rose to the top in terms of what people would like to see this body work on are safe streets policies as advisors, safe streets plans as advisors, and safe streets projects as advisors. And so there's that. Those are the categories. There are some things that we have to work on that we really have essentially figured out already. Membership and bylaws subcommittee will be formed, and I have received feedback from these individuals. So Nicholas, Montavious, and Kevin are all interested in being a part of the membership and bylaws subcommittee. And one of the activities that the membership and bylaws subcommittee will delve deeper into is this actual activity that Kevin has created in terms of developing a mission vision, because the mission and vision sits within the bylaws. So that's a good thing that we have that established, and there's some interested members. We've also established that we're going to meet monthly in the evenings, but the final results from the member body is that they're interested in a 90-minute meeting. So we are going to take it back up, Kevin, and we'll maybe take it back down at some point, but we're going to do a 90-minute meeting. And I think we'll see that it will probably be advantageous, so we don't have to, motor mouth so quick, and everybody can understand what we're saying and we're talking about. We're not rushing through things. So I'm cool with that. So I'm going to get back over to these priorities. I know the dots kind of look a little bit busy, but hey, whatever, we'll figure it out. So basically what I did was I put up a few Post-it notes under each category of specific things that this group could work on. I did also open it up to the member body to add any additional topics related to projects, policies, or plans. I didn't really get anything specific back. I got some notes on those particular items that I had already placed, but I want to just kind of go through them quite quickly. And if other people in the virtual room who haven't participated in this activity want me to throw up a Post-it note regarding a policy, a plan, or a project, I'm more than happy to do that. So I'm going to pause, and if anybody has any questions for me right now, please let me know. I cannot see the chat window or any of the other tools on Microsoft Teams, so perhaps Kevin or James can inform me if anyone has any questions that people would like me to answer right now.
Yeah, so I can monitor the chat. Rebecca mentioned that any changes to meetings should be announced as soon as possible to ensure there's enough time to schedule ASL interpreters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the only change as of now that we are making to the next meeting, which will be someone remind me when that is. I apologize. Or the first Wednesday. I don't know what that date is actually.
May 5th.
May 5th. Thank you. That will be a 90-minute meeting. So James, if you could make those changes accordingly, I would really appreciate it.
Yeah, if you don't mind my asking right now, would you rather it start at 4:30 and then still at 6, or would you rather extend it to 6:30?
Anyone?
Makes no difference to me. This is Claude. I voted for 60 minutes, by the way.
You still may get your wish at some point. Anyone else have any preference? I don't have preference.
4:30, I would say is maybe a little bit better start, and then end at 6.
This is Mitchell. Yeah, and that sounds good to me too.
We got in the chat that said 4:30 as well.
Okay. Well, 4:30, we'll try that out. And we won't get too willy-nilly on this any longer. For the sake of our very awesome interpreters and everyone else. So thank you for that, for making that mention, Rebecca. Any other questions regarding what I've gone through so far? Okay, so I'll just put out my interpretation of how I think this could work. And I think someone has mentioned it in terms of when I asked what methods or style of action do you want, or like essentially how do you want to work? Most advisory groups function in subcommittees. And we, in the past, I know that we've had I think it's projects and policy subcommittee. At this point, personally, I think that having just a couple would be appropriate that could work on all three of these things in the order of the priority that has been placed on them based off of the votes here. So obviously, and so yes, how do we feel about that? Or do I need to repeat myself in what I just said? Because what I just said might have been confusing. So for instance, another subcommittee, a project and policy subcommittee would have maybe the scooter pilot plan, the snow and ice removal plan, and Vision Zero on their radar initially. Or you may choose maybe one thing out of all of these things to really hyper focus on. But essentially you just keep working at them until you feel like you've come to a resolve and you can start working on it on the next top priority.
I don't know if I should be chiming in as the staffer, but I would say it might be worth keeping this as something to talk about in the May meeting as well, once the new members are official. Especially since I know Montavious Jones had some good ideas about sort of the development group, work group kind of idea. But that doesn't obviously mean that you can't do anything right now as well, obviously.
Thank you. And we don't have to hang on this too long. I actually would rather hear from other people if they have other ideas within these buckets that they think that this group should work on that haven't been listed. Like I said, this is distilled from a feedback form that we put out last month. So I'd be happy to add any other Post-it notes to the buckets there. Anything in the chat window?
No, nothing new.
Okay.
Caressa, has there been, this is Nicholas, has there been any, anybody that's sort of suggested any other types of subcommittees? Or, I mean, is there any one of these categories that you think you've heard from others that might be appropriate as its own subcommittee, or are they all kind of thinking of just dealing with them and within the existing structure?
No one has actually mentioned accomplishing or like taking any action through the vein of subcommittees. I should be very clear that although I am mentioning subcommittees, that's just kind of a traditional way of taking action. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to live like that, but it is the most effective way to do it, I think. And the way in which that subcommittee functions, I think, could be the area in which, you know, that group is most creative in terms of how they accomplish those actions. So no, I haven't gotten any specific feedback about that. It's more about, I've just gotten more feedback about what it is exactly that we should be doing. And I would say I've gotten the most feedback about pushing a Vision Zero policy forward, or at least supporting one, since there's some current movement around it outside of this group.
Yeah, I was going to say that makes sense to me too, in terms of that's a priority that I think it's both high for this group, and but it's also requires quite a bit of background work, and and that I think that would be appropriate to to have a really narrow focus to then bring back to the larger group via either a subcommittee or some other methodology. But yeah, that's the one that kind of stands out to me too as well. If I were to say that we'd want to create a separate group for that.
Yeah, my time is up here, but I'm gonna if you all don't mind, I'm gonna click out of this, and I think we can create a way to make this public if you all are okay with it. I'll just make it so it's not editable by anyone else other than the members, but I do want people to be able to reflect on this from the public. If they have more to contribute to it, I'm more than happy to welcome it.
Carissa, Paul
yes?
Zettel in the chat asked if this was an appropriate time to suggest a future project. So I don't know if that connects to what you just said about adding it to the Jamboard or providing feedback, or how you want to feel that.
Well, since we do need to move along, and I have provided a little bit of time to give people an opportunity to contribute to it, I do want to hear, Paul, I do want to hear what you have to say, and I want you to be able to reach out to me. You do know my email address, but I will say that right now we're in the process of coming up with a more public comment and inquiry, so that I can, grab those things up and put them on future agendas, so that, even offline, we have everything that we need and we're honoring people's thoughts. Is that okay with you, Paul? Shoot me a note. Can't see the chat window yet.
Yep, he said okay.
Okay,
thank you.
Great. Paul knows where to find me. He's a great bike fed volunteer. So let's see, what else do we got on this agenda here? Sorry about that. So many windows. Okay, so I'm going slightly over, but the one thing I do want to mention in light of these activities, the current grant that I manage, we're in our last year. It's supported by the Medical College of Wisconsin. Has provided the Bike Pedestrian Task Force with some very light, I'll call it light strategic planning time to help us examine what it is that we're up to, and also take a look at some of the other public advisory and advocacy groups within the city of Milwaukee, particularly the Milwaukee Safe and Healthy Streets group that used to be Path to Platinum, and also the Complete Streets Committee. And the purpose for that light strategic planning is just to have a facilitator from outside of our circle, so to speak, just examine the functionality of each group, how they may work better together, where there are some redundancies, and just overall functionality. It's like I said, it's not a deep dive strategic planning session. They call them technical assistance provisions. If you've ever worked on like a systems change grant before, you might know what I'm talking about. And we've arrived upon a consultant who used to work in MPS. Her name is Jessica Crandell. And we've provided her with some information of all, like, I guess you call the charter documents of each of those groups. And she's going to be working with some of us one-on-one just to hear what we have to say about our perceptions of the group, and kind of just give us a report out on how we may function better. Jessica doesn't necessarily get to determine how all the chips lie. That still is very much all up to us. But one of the things within the grant is to address the Bike Pedestrian Task Force and kind of figure out what it's doing and try to make it better. So that is what is happening. So I don't know if anybody has any questions about that, but if they do, they're more than happy. I'm more than happy to talk with you offline about that and provide you with some more details on that. But I'm looking forward to it, because sometimes it's nice to have somebody who isn't right up on in your community or right up on the problem or issue, kind of look at everything sort of from above. So we'll see how that goes. I am going to move on to the next item. I've gone over a little, and that is a letter of inquiry that Mitch Henke has sent to the Bike Pedestrian Task Force regarding the progress of the Jefferson Street cycle track. And I think that the decision that we have made is to learn more about that from the DPW. But James, perhaps I could hear from Mitch in terms of what his intentions were with the letter, and then we can go from there, if that's okay with you.
Sure. I did prepare a few slides to kind of describe what the project is in case people aren't aware, but I'll field however you want to handle it.
Mitch, what do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm happy to let James take the wheel and kind of give an overview if people are unfamiliar.
Okay, sounds good.
Any updates that he had.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I'll try to just breeze through them pretty quickly here. Can everyone see it all right? All right, great. So conversations around Jefferson Street as a protected bike lane or cycle track started a couple of years ago when we were starting to kind of take a second look or another look at sort of the downtown network and really thinking of it in terms of an all ages and abilities network. Obviously, it was connected to other conversations as well, but this is nothing official in terms of a map, but it is kind of a concept of, right now the existing bikeway network downtown is very fragmented, and there are opportunities to kind of do something a little more connected and have some longer spines, if you will, some longer stretches. Just as an example, Kilbourne with the protected bike lanes that have been installed over the past couple of years. Excuse me. So the scope of the project when it was kind of incepted was to just really do fairly low cost treatments. So new pavement markings to really install the protected bike lanes, high visibility crosswalks at basically all the intersections, and convert angled parking to parallel parking where appropriate. It actually would go from Erie Street down on the south side, go underneath 794 through the pedestrian tunnel with some possible safety improvements at kind of where it crosses the sidewalk, and then all the way back up to Kilbourne Avenue on the north end to connect to the protected bike lanes. We identified a number of benefits, both being safety, continuing to advance the low stress all ages and abilities bikeway, and network connectivity, and I'll touch on that in just a quick second. Just want to kind of point out the kind of sections. There are kind of two typical sections of the street. This existing is from Erie to Mason is essentially parallel parking on both sides, bike lanes and two motor vehicle lanes. The main change that was proposed was moving the 2 bike lanes to the east side of the street and adding parking and flexible delineators to protect the biking traffic. And then north of Mason to Kilbourne, the only main difference was that there's angled parking on the east side or the west side of the street. Currently, that would be converted over to parallel parking and then the same type of treatment. To date, the coronation started in late 2018 and continued throughout 2019. But as we know, and the topic, there weren't many meetings in 2020, but there were 8 stakeholder meetings, 1 really well-attended community walk, and a number of sort of internal coordination meetings with other stakeholders and elected officials kind of since then. And these photos are just kind of examples from elsewhere across the country of kind of the concept of what they could look like. Our next steps that we've identified are we want to hire a consultant to develop some further conceptual plans that we can share with stakeholders and the public to kind of continue the conversation. We obviously met a lot of challenges over the past year and some change in terms of keeping it a priority. So we want to kind of revisit that, and obviously we need to do additional outreach and work through some of the challenges that we encountered along the way. So with that, I don't want to take up any more time and hand it over to Mitchell.
Sorry. So I guess like what is the next step, like, and when, I guess?
Yeah, so we think that one of the important things that needs to be done next is to have a clear concept to share with stakeholders so that people can really visualize what it would look like and how it could benefit, both the overall traveling public, if you will, people that don't just work or live along those stretches, but then also the businesses that are along there and have concerns of how their patrons will, access their businesses essentially. I mean, not to be coy, like one of the main challenges was between Mason and Kilbourne, the conversion from angled parking to parallel parking was something that we met quite a bit of resistance against and couldn't work through a solution that would still be in all ages and abilities, low stress option.
I guess
so time-wise, we want to hire this consultant in the next month and then hopefully have plans, pretty quickly within a few weeks. We think that would be reasonable once something's set up. And then, we would like to have it installed as soon as possible, but we know some of those concerns need to be addressed before we can, develop anything that would be, a contractor installed.
And if anybody else has questions, I'm happy to yield.
Looks like Rebecca has a question.
James, the parallel the diagonal parking on Jefferson, is that metered? Well, obviously it's marked. Is it metered as well?
I don't remember. I will need to follow up on that. I feel bad not knowing that off the top.
This is Claude. The answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
I know that else today.
Okay, so I was just thinking it doesn't even matter if it is metered, it's marked. So we would have to make sure that we have accessible on-street parking. So, which is a little more difficult with it being parallel parking. So
there are also a number of loading zones that aren't metered, so that's also part of the consideration. I also see Nicholas has his hand raised.
Yeah. Hey. So I was actually going to ask you about this because in 2019, I remember we were thinking it was going to come at the end of that year, and I was, is it more there was lack of a political consensus based on the stakeholders in the neighborhood, or was it funding, or kind of both? Because I know there was also a question about whether the grants that you'd applied for And then also my other question was the Cathedral Square, Friends of Cathedral Square had looked at this, and I wonder if there's been any additional conversations about their ideas for a WNRF on Jefferson Street and finding a way to kind of make everybody happy with that.
I don't believe there have been any further conversations with the Friends of Cathedral Square. The WNRF sounded like it was a more long-term option or something that they supported, but they, as far as I was aware, were not in support of the protected bike lane option. And then in terms of like the hurdles, I think it's just that a number of the businesses were really putting their foot down on not being happy with losing more parking or angled parking in particular. And I know Alderman Bauman, whose district it is, was supportive of the project overall, but we kind of hit an impasse in terms of what would be supported kind of by, I don't know. It's I don't have a good answer, unfortunately. Like we literally hit an impasse and there was no, clear path forward. And I think we were just in a holding pattern, and a lot of sort of internal priorities changed throughout 2020, and it kind of fell to the wayside a little. But we still are committed to doing something we'd like to see. I mean, 90% of the project is on board or supported, and it's just those last block and a half really that are challenging at this point.
Well, yeah, and I'm really glad that you haven't given up on it too, because I think if we keep reiterating the values of it and having those conversations with the people that have concerns about parking, I hope we can eventually come to some agreement to move forward on it, because I think it's a great project. So
I also see Mariana has a question.
Hi.
You're still muted, right?
This is Mariana. I'm actually the part of Cathedral Square Friends. I'm the secretary of the group, and I have with me Dave Reed, who is the president. Since there was a question regarding...
yeah, I'll just jump in.
Yeah, I'll let Dave jump in.
We dropped the WNRF element of our park design. Probably gave it away to DPW too quickly, but apparently they weren't as inspired in that as I was. But despite it being in the downtown plan, but as far as protected bike lane, at least personally, I guess I don't remember exactly what the board took action or not.
We did not officially, but we were aware of the discussions, and we know that a lot of the business owners were not happy about the changes to the parking and just how the street is designed. And we heard a lot of questions. Can they be like, why don't you move it to like Van Buren Street, or because it's like a straight street and you don't have to jog around multiple streets. Part of the deal is like in the third ward connecting Jefferson, you got to go through the tunnel, which is helpful, but then you got to turn right multiple times. And right now they just rebuilt the street, and it seems like the bike piece is not there, or not very bike friendly.
As Mayor said, the tunnel, I just took photos of this the other day, you have to make 4 90-degree turns to get through the tunnel. We bike a little bit, tens of thousands of miles in our life. That's the last thing you want to do on a bicycle, is multiple 90-degree turns. And that sidewalk just went in. I think it literally was finished in 2020. So I'm curious if that's going to be rebuilt yet again. But I've always been in the position, this is just the wrong street. I understand we want a street to bring this. It doesn't go all the way across downtown, it dead ends. Logically, you would go Van Buren because that's the worst street in downtown to ride on, and then you could even go all the way up, all the way down Holton, whereas this dead ends on Kilburn essentially, or I guess you could say Juneau, and it's already a pretty quiet street. It just seems like you're not getting a whole lot of bang for your buck here, kind of government waste to me. But if you put it on it's like you're taking a street that is already very easy to ride on and making it a little bit easier, or you could take a street that is
Hostile.
terrible to ride on and make it nice. It just seems like the priorities are pretty strange to me. But that's our little update. That's where we are. And yes, as Mayor said, we were aware that those couple blocks of businesses were definitely concerned about the change from angle to parallel, because not because of the direction they're facing, but because that would represent to them a loss of parking. But that's all I had.
Thank you, Dave. Actually, one of the things that I would like to make a request, James, I saw that there were 8, I think you said 8 stakeholder meetings, correct? Is there a place where we can find the feedback from those meetings publicly, or just curious?
I will double check. We've been going through a website reorganized, and I can't remember if we had a web page set up for that or not. But
yes,
Mike Amsden has been pretty much managing the project, but he was off today, so
That's cool.
I'll follow.
I think what would be great is if we can I can make it a request to find that information and share it out with this group, or if it could be directed to us so I can let the people know who attended. And the reason why I asked that is just because I know that I actually attended, I guess would be sort of like an internal business stakeholder meeting. I will tell you, I'll just be candid, I didn't appreciate the way Alderman Bauman articulated his interest in putting the bike cycle track down on that street. I don't think it was I could see the reactions on the business owners' faces. That wasn't, they weren't into it. And I think that, I'd like to also hear from if there are general public inquiries, because obviously the business owners are the people who are most affected by the changes on the street. But there's also people who utilize that street, or maybe want to utilize that street and patron that street even more, but feel that it's very difficult to get through east side of the river and enjoy that area because of, various challenges, whether that's geographic or safety. So I think that it's important to weigh in everyone's opinions, and I just never seen any of that feedback from any. I was surprised to see that many stakeholder meetings in that regard. And then second of all, I have a question, and maybe it might be more appropriate if we think about no matter where a north-south, east of the river bikeway happens, whether that's Van Buren or Jefferson or wherever, that we can maybe approach this more in a flexible way. There's lots of other ways to implement safe streets upgrades on different streets, regardless of the street, that I think these days, as you know, offer a little bit more flexibility, where business owners and residents can contribute their opinions, and whether that has to do with accessibility, loading zones, all that good stuff, so that they're not locked into something, and they can make decisions. Because I feel like the business owners and the friends group, if this is the route that we decided, would probably be more, they would like it more if they had a little bit more control over the situation, and it could be a flex space that works for everybody. So that is my opinion, but my opinion doesn't matter as much as the opinion of everyone else in this virtual room. So I just don't know if anyone has anything else to say about it before we adjourn.
Yeah, I don't want to take up too much additional time here, but I do want to say, since Van Buren was brought up, that I don't think it's necessarily one or the other. I think plans and discussions are moving forward with improving safety and making Van Buren more of a complete street for more vulnerable users, regardless of what happens on Jefferson. So if anything, they might hopefully just be hand in glove if we are able to move in that direction.
Yeah, Claude.
So I wanted to just throw in the idea that Plankington 2nd Street should be considered. I really think it's a much better option. It sounds like people on Jefferson Street don't want this anyway. It goes into the south side. It leads right into the bike trail along the river. I mean, there's lots of good reasons why this would make sense. So I would hope that that would be considered in addition to or instead of Jefferson. Now, the other thing I'll say is with the Jefferson Street business owners, even though I would prefer Plankington, I would be willing to bet you if you went back to the records that the same Jefferson Street building owners and businesses that are now opposed to removing angle parking were opposed to adding it in the first place when it was parallel parking there. So to me, that shouldn't be a reason why this isn't done if Jefferson is the best place to do it. Because people are always opposed to change no matter what. So I'm certain that those folks were opposed to changing to angle parking 20 years ago or whenever it was, 25 years ago. So, but Plankington 2nd Street, I think, is a better option.
Anyone else?
I wanted to say something. Dave, hey, how are you doing? Heard your comment, and the opinion about Jefferson already being a safer street. I hear that. I think we've talked about that before, but I think if you look at like Van Buren having all the bus traffic, that's something that we haven't talked about. That's really a transit way that makes it more difficult for a protected bike lane. And I think the reason that the city looked at Jefferson is because it would be such an easier fit, because there already has a kind of a low traffic and higher safety for pedestrians and bicyclists along it, that it would be more appropriate. I mean, it's you could say you could put a protected bike lane on Capitol Drive, but it certainly wouldn't make it a night and day difference in terms of how you feel on your bike. You really wouldn't feel. I personally wouldn't feel any safer on a high traffic route like Van Buren, just because of the protected bike lane there. I think Jefferson makes more sense because it already is a lower traffic route, to have that improved infrastructure there. But I get what you're saying, but I just think that you have to kind of look at it in both ways and understand that the design, you can't necessarily flip the coin on it completely. You might have to think about the design being more appropriate for the street that you're proposing it for, as opposed to trying to drastically alter the built environment of something like Van Buren. I'd love to see Van Buren improve as well, but I don't know, with all the bus traffic along it as a transit way, I don't know that you're going to be able to make that a really bike friendly route. So that's my take on it.
Well, we are needing to come to adjourn, but if anyone else has any other requests on this particular project, please reach out to me. As I said, I'd really like to see what other people had to say about it, because I didn't know that there's these other meetings. And I look forward to coming to essentially pushing forward some kind of north-south route through downtown, perhaps east of the river, that serves those individuals who essentially want to be on the east side of Milwaukee. So I move to adjourn this meeting unless anyone else has anything else to say, and I'm looking for a second.
I'll second.
All right, the meeting is adjourned, and I appreciate everyone's patience, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Hit me up, email me, let's talk. Thanks, Angie.
Thank you so much, Angie.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you, Angie. Good night, everyone.
Night.